The bush plane dropped me at Willow Creek Airstrip on a Tuesday afternoon in late September. The pilot kept the engine running while I unloaded my duffel and the supply crate marked for Station 14. He didn't shut down, didn't help, didn't say goodbye. Just lifted off the moment my boots cleared the pontoon strut and banked hard south toward Fairbanks. I stood alone on the gravel strip with $900 in my checking account, 4 months of back child support hanging over my head, and a federal seasonal contract that promised 12 weeks of work at a remote fire lookout. The pay was decent. The isolation was the point. My ex-wife's lawyer couldn't serve papers to a place that didn't receive mail. Station 14 sat 11 miles northeast, accessible only by foot trail or helicopter. I'd been told a ranger named Dawes would meet me at the trailhead by 4 o'clock. It was 3:47. The birch trees along the strip had already turned, yellow leaves catching what remained of the afternoon light. In 6 weeks, this whole drainage would be under snow. I found the trailhead marker, a brown post with faded white lettering, and waited. At 4:15, a man appeared on the trail carrying a rifle and a canvas pack. He was older than I'd expected, maybe 60, with a beard going gray and a Park Service jacket that looked 20 years past regulation. He didn't offer his hand. "Langley, that's me." "Dawes, you're late." I pointed at the sky. "Pilot schedule, not mine." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "We walk fast. Station's 8 hours from here. If we don't stop, we don't stop." I shouldered my duffel. Dawes took the supply crate without asking and started up the trail at a pace that made my lungs burn within the first mile. We didn't talk. The forest closed around us, black spruce, dwarf birch, patches of muskeg that sucked at my boots. I counted my steps to keep my mind off the weight on my back. 1,200 steps per mile, 9 miles to go. We reached Station 14 at 11:53 that night. The moon was 3/4 full, and the station emerged from the darkness like something that had grown there rather than been built. A 2-story wooden structure with a wraparound deck on the upper level and small windows that reflected nothing. A radio tower rose from the roof. A generator shed sat 30 yards to the east. Beyond the clearing, the tree line formed a perfect circle around us, maybe 200 yards in diameter. Dawes unlocked the door with a key from a ring of 12. I counted them in the moonlight. Each key was labeled with colored tape. "Green opens the main door," he said. "Blue opens the generator shed. Yellow opens the emergency cache under the north deck. You don't touch the red key unless I'm dead or gone more than 72 hours. Understand?" I said I understood. Inside, the station smelled like wood smoke and old paper. Dawes lit a propane lantern and showed me the layout. Ground floor, radio room, storage, bathroom with a chemical toilet, and a small kitchen with a propane stove. Upper floor, 2 bunks, a desk, and the observation windows that looked out in 4 directions. The staircase was steep and narrow. The walls were bare except for a detailed topographic map and a laminated sheet of paper tacked beside the radio console. Dawes pointed at the laminated sheet. "Read that tonight. Memorize it by tomorrow. Don't ask me questions about it until you've read it 3 times. I looked at the sheet. It was titled Station 14, Operating Protocols, in faded typewriter font. Below the title was a numbered list. "What is this?" I asked. "The rules." Dawes set down his pack and began unpacking canned goods. Every station in this district has rules. 14's rules are specific to 14. You follow them exactly, you'll be fine. You improvise, you won't be. Won't be what?" He didn't answer. He finished unpacking, showed me how to operate the radio, and climbed to the upper bunk without another word. I sat at the radio console with the laminated sheet under the lantern light and read it through once, then twice, then a third time the way Dawes had told me. Outside, something walked through the brush at the edge of the clearing. The footsteps were heavy and rhythmic, circling the station in a pattern I couldn't quite track. The rules were as follows. 1. All radio communication must occur on Channel 6 between the hours of 6 in the morning and 9 in the evening. Channel 4 is for emergency use only. Do not use Channel 4 unless you have confirmed an emergency using the verification protocol described in Rule 7. 2. Every ranger in this district has been assigned a weekly code phrase that changes each Monday at midnight. You must verify the code phrase before responding to any incoming radio transmission. If the code phrase is incorrect, do not respond. Do not acknowledge the transmission. Do not explain why you are not responding. 3. Between the hours of 11 at night and 4:30 in the morning, do not look out the north-facing window on the upper floor. The curtain must remain drawn during these hours. You may look out the east, west, and south windows at any time. 4. If you hear footsteps circling the station, count them. The count should be exactly 47 steps for a complete circuit. If the count is any other number, go to the radio room, close the door, and do not open it until you have completed a full inventory of supplies using the checklist on the clipboard behind the radio console. The inventory takes approximately 40 minutes. Do not rush. 5. The generator must be refueled every 3 days. Refueling must occur between 2 in the afternoon and 4 in the afternoon. Do not refuel outside this window. If the generator runs out of fuel outside this window, then do not attempt to restart it until the next approved refueling period. 6. You will receive a supply drop via helicopter every 2 weeks. The helicopter will arrive between 10 in the morning and noon. The pilot will radio ahead on Channel 6 with the correct weekly code phrase. If a helicopter arrives without radioing ahead, or with an incorrect code phrase, do not approach it. Do not accept supplies from it. Remain inside the station until it departs. 7. To verify an emergency requiring Channel 4, you must observe direct physical evidence of the emergency. A voice on the radio claiming an emergency is not sufficient. A scream in the forest is not sufficient. Smoke visible from the observation deck, a confirmed injury to your own body, or the physical presence of another ranger displaying their identification badge within arm's reach. These are sufficient. 8. If you hear your name called from outside the station between the hours of 10 at night and 5 in the morning, do not respond verbally. Do not go to the window. Do not open any door. Write down the exact time and the exact phrasing of what you heard in the logbook on the radio desk. Continue with your normal duties. 9. The tree line is 214 yards from the station in every direction. Do not approach within 50 yards of the tree line after dark. During daylight hours, you may approach the tree line, but do not enter the forest alone. If you must enter the forest, notify dispatch via Channel 6 and provide your intended route, estimated return time, and the name of the ranger accompanying you. 10. There are 4 other active stations in this district. Stations 11, 12, 15, and 17. Station 13 was decommissioned in 1989. If you receive a radio transmission from Station 13, do not respond. Log the transmission and continue with normal duties. 11. Your weekly code phrase for the current period is Copper Basin. This phrase expires Monday at midnight. The new phrase will be transmitted by dispatch at 6:05 in the morning, each Monday. If you do not receive a new phrase by 6:30, use the emergency backup phrase, Denali standing, until further notice. 12. The bathroom door must remain open at all times between midnight and 3 in the morning. If the door is closed during this period, do not open it. Wait until 3:01, then open it normally. 13. Once per shift, you must complete a perimeter inspection of the station exterior. This inspection should occur between 1 in the afternoon and 3 in the afternoon. Walk the full perimeter clockwise, maintaining a distance of exactly 10 feet from the building. Count your steps. The correct count is 112 steps. If your count differs by more than 3 steps, complete the circuit a second time. If the count is still incorrect, do not complete third circuit. Return inside and radio dispatch with the word variance. 14. If another ranger arrives at the station unannounced between sunset and sunrise, do not open the door until they have provided the weekly code phrase and you have visually confirmed their badge number through the window beside the door. The window has a light mounted above it. Use the light. Read the badge number aloud. If they cannot provide the code phrase or badge number, do not open the door regardless of weather conditions, apparent injuries, or claims of emergency. I set down the laminated sheet. Outside, the footsteps had stopped. I checked my watch. 12:23 in the morning. I thought about the north-facing window upstairs and the curtain that had to stay drawn. I thought about the bathroom door standing open and what might need to come through it. Dawes was asleep. I could hear his breathing from the upper floor, slow and even. He'd been doing this for years. He knew what these rules meant. He knew why they existed. I didn't ask, not that night. I read the rules a 4th time, then a 5th. At 1 in the morning, I heard the footsteps begin again. I counted them through the wall, keeping track with marks on my notepad. 47 steps. Exactly 47. The count was correct. I didn't sleep until 4:32, when the gray lights of pre-dawn began to seep through the east window. The footsteps had stopped at 4:15. I closed my eyes and dreamed of nothing. Dawes woke me at 8 with instant coffee and a stack of forms. There was paperwork to complete before he could leave. Liability waivers, equipment inventories, radio protocols. He walked me through each form with the same flat efficiency he'd shown on the trail. "You'll do a patrol once a day," he said. "Weather permitting. Stay on the established trails. Don't go more than 3 miles from the station. Radio in every hour on the hour." "What about the rules?" He looked at me. "What about them? Are they real? I mean, do things actually happen if you don't follow them?" Dawes set down his coffee cup. He walked to the window and looked out at the tree line, hands clasped behind his back. "In 1994, he said, a ranger named Vickers was assigned to this station. Seasonal, like you. He thought the rules were hazing, thought we were trying to scare the new guy. He opened the north curtain one night just to prove a point." Dawes paused. "We found him 11 days later, 6 miles southeast, sitting against a tree with his eyes open. Coroner said heart failure, but his watch had stopped at 2:17 in the morning, and his logbook had one word written on the last page. Just one word, over and over, filling the whole page. What word? Wrong." Dawes turned from the window. He wrote wrong maybe 300 times. Then his heart stopped. I didn't ask any more questions. Dawes left at noon. He shook my hand at the door and told me the helicopter would bring supplies and my relief in 12 weeks. He told me to follow the rules. Then he walked into the tree line and disappeared, and I was alone. The first 3 days passed in a rhythm of small tasks. I inventoried the supplies each morning. 47 cans of food, 12 gallons of water, 38 batteries in various sizes, 1 flare gun with 6 flares, 200 feet of rope, 1 first aid kit, 1 fire extinguisher. I checked the radio at 6:05 each morning for the new code phrase. I completed my perimeter inspection at 1:30 each afternoon, counting exactly 112 steps. I heard the footsteps every night. They began at 10 or 11, circling the station in that slow, heavy rhythm. I counted them each time. 47 steps, always 47. I wrote the counts in my logbook and tried not to think about what was making them. A moose, maybe. A bear, something natural that had learned to walk in a perfect circle around a building night after night. On the 4th night, the radio crackled at 11:47. I was in the radio room with the door closed, logging my supply counts. The transmission came through on Channel 6, which was wrong. Channel 6 was for daytime communication only. I reached for the receiver, then stopped. Rule 1. No radio communication on Channel 6 after 9 in the evening. The voice spoke again. Station 14, this is Station 12. Do you copy? It sounded like a normal voice. Male, middle-aged, slightly distorted by static. I knew the voice. It belonged to a ranger named Hendricks, who I'd spoken to twice during daylight hours. He'd given me the correct code phrase both times. Station 14, please respond. We have a situation. My hand hovered over the receiver. A situation could mean anything. An injury, a fire, a lost hiker. But Rule 7 was clear. To verify an emergency, I needed direct physical evidence. A voice on the radio claiming an emergency was not sufficient. I did not respond. 14, this is Hendricks at 12. I need immediate assistance. Repeat, immediate assistance, Copper Basin. He'd used the code phrase. That was correct. But the channel was wrong, and the time was wrong, and something about his voice was wrong too. A slight delay between syllables, as if the words were being assembled from pieces rather than spoken naturally. I turned off the radio. I sat in the dark and listened to the footsteps outside. 47. I counted them 3 times to be sure. The next morning, I radioed Station 12 at 6:15. Hendricks answered on Channel 6 with the correct code phrase. I asked if he had tried to contact me the previous night. Negative, he said. I was asleep by 9:30. No transmissions from this station after sunset. I logged the discrepancy and continued my duties. But I thought about that voice, almost right, using the correct phrase on the wrong channel at the wrong time. I thought about what the rules were designed to keep out. The first week ended without incident. I fell into the rhythm of the station, inventory at 8, radio check at 9, perimeter walk at 1:30, generator refueling on days 3 and 6, logbook entries every 2 hours. I kept the north curtain drawn. I left the bathroom door open between midnight and 3. I counted the footsteps each night and wrote the number in my log. On the 8th day, I heard my name. It came at 12:17 in the morning. I was in the radio room, logging my supply counts. The voice came from outside, from somewhere near the east side of the building. Marcus, my first name, not my last name, not Ranger, not any official designation, just Marcus. spoken clearly in a voice I didn't recognize. "Marcus, can you hear me?" Rule 8. I did not respond verbally. I did not go to the window. I wrote in the logbook, 12:17 a.m. Voice from east exterior, male, used first name twice, no further identification. "Marcus, please, I'm hurt. I fell on the trail and I think my leg is broken." I sat very still. The voice was coming from maybe 30 feet away, just outside the east wall. I could hear the pain in it, the desperation. "Please, Marcus, I know you're in there. I can see the light." The light. I looked at the propane lantern on the desk. It was turned low, barely a glow. But from outside, in complete darkness, it would be visible through the gaps in the curtains. I did not respond. I did not move. The voice continued for another 7 minutes, alternating between pleading and sobbing. Then it stopped. At 12:31, I heard the footsteps begin. I counted them. 47, exactly 47. I wrote in the logbook, 12:31 a.m., voice ceased, footsteps began, count correct. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the radio room with the door closed and the lantern turned off, listening to the footsteps circle the station until 4:15. When the gray light of dawn finally came, I looked out the east window at the spot where the voice had originated. The grass was flattened in a rough circle about 8 feet across. At the center of the circle was a single boot print pressed deep into the mud. It was facing the station. I didn't go outside to examine it. I waited until 1:30 for my perimeter inspection, and by then the print had filled with water, and I couldn't tell how old it was or what had made it. The supply helicopter arrived on day 14, exactly on schedule. The pilot radioed ahead at 10:22 with the correct code phrase. I watched from the observation deck as the helicopter descended into the clearing, rotors kicking up dead leaves and loose soil. A man climbed out with 2 supply crates. He was wearing a Park Service uniform with the correct insignia. I went to the door but didn't open it. "Badge number," I called through the window. He held up his badge. 7429, Matthews. "I've got your resupply and some updated protocols from dispatch." The badge number matched his face to the registry photo posted beside the radio console. I opened the door. Matthews didn't come inside. He handed me the supply crates one at a time, then a sealed envelope marked Station 14, Protocol Amendments. "New rules?" I asked. "They update them sometimes, based on incident reports from the field." He glanced at the tree line. "How's it been out here?" "Quiet." "Good, that's good." He looked at me with something that might have been sympathy, or might have been assessment. "Dawes said you're handling it well, said you follow protocol." "I follow the rules." "Same thing." Matthews climbed back into the helicopter. "See you in 2 weeks. Stay on schedule." The helicopter lifted off and banked south. I watched until it disappeared behind the ridge, then carried the supplies inside and opened the envelope. The amendments were typed on the same yellowed paper as the original rules. There were 8 of them. Amendment A, effective immediately. All perimeter inspections must be completed by 2:30 in the afternoon. The previous window of 1 to 3 has been reduced due to reported incidents at other stations in the district. Amendment B. If the footstep count deviates from 47 by any amount, do not complete the supply inventory. Instead, proceed immediately to the upper floor and remain in the observation room until dawn. Do not look out any window during this period. Keep all curtains drawn. Amendment C. The phrase, "I need help," spoken from outside the station, must be disregarded regardless of the time of day. Legitimate requests for assistance will include your badge number and station designation. Amendment D. If you observe a light in the forest after dark, do not attempt to identify its source. Log the time, direction, and estimated distance. Do not observe it for more than 5 seconds. Amendment E. The emergency cache under the north deck now contains additional supplies, including 100 feet of copper wire, 4 pounds of rock salt, and a sealed container marked "Do Not Open." These items are for emergency use only. The sealed container must never be opened by station personnel. If instructed to open it by radio, verify the instruction using the emergency backup protocol before complying. Amendment F. Between 3:30 and 3:45 in the morning, you may hear a sound resembling a radio transmission from inside the station. This is not a radio transmission. Do not attempt to locate the source. Continue with normal duties. Amendment G. If you observe another person within the 214-yard perimeter who does not respond to verbal communication within 10 seconds, return to the station immediately. Do not approach the person. Do not attempt further communication. Amendment H. The weekly code phrase system has been upgraded. In addition to verbal confirmation, all legitimate radio contacts will now include a numerical suffix based on the current day of the week. Sunday is 1, Monday is 2, and so forth. For example, if the code phrase is Copper Basin and today is Wednesday, the correct verification is Copper Basin 4. I read the amendments 3 times, then laminated them and posted them beside the original rules. I thought about Amendment B, the change in protocol if the footstep count was wrong. I'd been counting every night for 2 weeks. The count had always been 47. What happened if it wasn't? The 3rd week began with rain. It came down in sheets from a low gray sky, turning the clearing into a lake of mud and standing water. I couldn't complete my perimeter inspection. The ground was too soft, the footing too treacherous. I radioed dispatch at 9:02 to report the weather delay. Understood 14. Resume inspections when conditions permit. Maintain all other protocols. Copy that. One question. What's the protocol if I can't complete a perimeter for multiple days? There was a pause on the other end. Then, maintain line of sight on all 4 perimeter zones from the observation deck. 15-minute checks. Log any movement within the clearing. Do not approach the tree line for any reason. Copy. Copper Basin 5. Confirmed. Dispatch out. I spent the next 3 days in the observation room, rotating between windows every 15 minutes, logging everything I saw. Rain, mud, dead leaves swirling in the wind. On the 2nd day, I saw a shape at the northern tree line, something large and dark, standing just inside the first row of trees. I watched it for 4 seconds, then looked away. Amendment D. Do not observe it for more than 5 seconds. When I looked back, it was gone. The rain stopped on the 4th day. The ground was still soft, but passable. I completed my perimeter inspection at 1:45, counting exactly 112 steps. The mud showed no tracks except my own from previous walks. That night, the radio crackled at 11:23. Station 14, this is Station 13. Do you copy? I froze. Station 13 had been decommissioned in 1989. Rule 10 was explicit. If I received a transmission from Station 13, I was not to respond. 14, this is 13. We have a ranger in distress. Require immediate assistance. Copper Basin 4. The code phrase was correct. The numerical suffix was correct. It was Wednesday. But the station was wrong. Station 13 didn't exist anymore. 14, please respond. We have a man down. Repeat, man down at Station 13. Grid reference 724 by 318, Copper Basin 4. The voice sounded professional, calm, exactly like a real ranger requesting assistance. I wrote in my logbook, 11:23 p.m., transmission from Station 13. Claimed ranger in distress, correct code phrase with correct suffix. Did not respond per Rule 10. The transmission continued for another 12 minutes. The voice provided detailed descriptions of the injured ranger's condition. Broken ankle, possible concussion, significant blood loss. It provided GPS coordinates, trail conditions, estimated time for a rescue party to arrive. It was, in every way, a legitimate emergency call. Except it came from a station that hadn't existed for 35 years. I sat in the dark and listened. At 11:35, the transmission ended mid-sentence. The voice simply stopped, as if someone had cut a wire. Then the footsteps began. I counted them, 41, 42, 43. I stopped breathing. 44, 45, 46. Silence. The count was wrong. The count was 46. Amendment B was clear. Proceed immediately to the upper floor and remain in the observation room until dawn. Do not look out any window. Keep all curtains drawn. I climbed the stairs. The observation room was dark, all 4 curtains already closed from my earlier rotation. I sat on my bunk and waited. Outside, I could hear something moving. Not footsteps now, something else. A sound like breathing, slow and wet, circling the station at a distance I couldn't judge. I did not look. At 3:32, I heard the sound Amendment F had warned me about. Something resembling a radio transmission from inside the station. It came from downstairs, from the radio room, a voice speaking in bursts of static, too distorted to understand. I stayed on my bunk. I did not attempt to locate the source. Dawn came at 6:41. I opened the curtains and looked out at the clearing. The mud showed a single track circling the station, maybe 20 feet from the walls. It wasn't footprints. It was a continuous groove, as if something had been dragged in a perfect circle around the building. The groove was exactly 46 feet long. I measured it during my perimeter inspection. I radioed dispatch at 9:08. This is Station 14, requesting guidance on an overnight incident. Go ahead, 14. Footstep count was incorrect last night. 46 instead of 47. I followed Amendment B protocol. This morning, I observed a track in the mud. A continuous groove, 46 feet in length, circling the station. Silence on the other end. Then, 14, confirm you followed Amendment B in full. Did not look out any window, kept all curtains drawn. Confirmed. Did you observe anything through the windows before you closed the curtains? Negative. Curtains were already closed from earlier weather protocol. Another pause. Understood, 14. Log the incident and continue normal operations. The count discrepancy has been noted. If it occurs again, repeat Amendment B protocol. If it occurs 3 times in a 7-day period, you will receive further instructions. Copy that. Any explanation for what the count discrepancy means? Negative, 14. Follow the protocols. Dispatch out. I logged the incident and continued my duties, but I couldn't stop thinking about that groove in the mud. Something had circled the station 46 times last night instead of 47. Something had come up 1 short. What was the 47th supposed to be? The 4th week brought the first real visitor. I heard the helicopter at 10:15 on Monday morning, right on schedule. The pilot radioed ahead with the correct code phrase and suffix. I watched from the observation deck as the aircraft descended into the clearing. 2 people got out. One was Matthews, the resupply pilot. The other was a woman in a park service uniform I didn't recognize. Matthews approached the station while the woman waited by the helicopter. "Badge number," I called through the window. 7429, Matthews. You know me, Langley. "Badge number for your companion." Matthews hesitated. He turned and called something to the woman. She walked toward the station, reaching for her badge. 8216, she said. "Reeves, I'm your new partner." I checked the registry beside the radio console. Badge 8216 was assigned to a ranger named Reeves, Michelle, stationed at headquarters in Fairbanks. The photo matched the woman standing outside. I opened the door. Matthews handed me the supply crates while Reeves looked around the clearing. "Nice place," she said. "Isolated." "That's the point. I've heard." She met my eyes. "I've also heard things about this station, things that happen at night." I didn't answer. Matthews climbed back into the helicopter and started the engine. "She's here for the duration," he said through the open door. 2 rangers at 14 for the rest of the season. New policy after what happened at Station 12. "What happened at Station 12? Matthews looked at Reeves, then at me. "Hendricks is gone. Walked into the tree line 3 nights ago. Never came back." The helicopter lifted off before I could ask anything else. Reeves and I spent the afternoon going through the protocols. She'd read the original rules and the amendments at headquarters, but she hadn't internalized them the way I had. She asked questions I couldn't answer. Why 47 steps? Why the north window specifically? Why between midnight and 3? "I don't know," I told her. "I just follow them." "But you've been here 4 weeks. You must have figured some of it out." "I've figured out that when I follow the rules, I survive the night. That's all I need to know." She looked at me with something like disappointment. "Dawes told me you were practical." Dawes was right. That night, I showed Reeves the routine. Inventory at 8, radio check at 9, close the north curtain by 11, leave the bathroom door open between midnight and 3. She watched me count the footsteps when they started at 10:42. 47, I said when they stopped. Exactly 47. "What makes them?" "I don't know." "You haven't looked?" "The rules don't say to look, they say to count." She stared at me in the dim light of the propane lantern. "You're serious?" "I'm alive." Reeves took the upper bunk. I stayed in the radio room, logging the night's events. At 12:03, I heard my name called from outside. "Marcus." I didn't move. Reeves appeared at the top of the stairs, looking down at me. "Did you hear that?" "Yes." "Someone's calling your name." "It's not someone. Don't respond." She started toward the east window. I caught her arm before she could reach it. "Rule 8, don't go to the window. Don't respond verbally. Write it down and continue with normal duties." "But what if?" "There is no what if. There's the rules." I handed her my logbook. "Write it down. 12:03 a.m. Voice from exterior. Used first name, male. No further identification. That's all you do." She wrote it down. The voice continued for another 4 minutes, cycling through variations. "Marcus, I need help." "Marcus, please, I'm hurt." "Marcus, can you hear me?" Then it stopped and the footsteps began. I counted. Reeves watched me count. 47 steps, exactly. "How do you stand this?" she asked when the count was done. You get used to it. I don't think I will. She was right. She didn't. On the third night after Reeves arrived, the count was wrong again. 44 steps. I followed Amendment B, and Reeves followed me to the observation room. We sat in the dark with the curtains drawn, listening to something move outside. It sounds like breathing, she whispered. Don't describe it, just wait. But the rules don't say to describe it, they say to wait. We waited. At 2:17, something knocked on the north-facing window of the observation room. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Reeves stood up. I grabbed her wrist. Don't. Someone's out there. Something's out there. It's not the same. She pulled free and reached for the curtain. I tackled her before she could touch it. We hit the floor hard, and she fought me, trying to get free. Let me go. Listen to me. I pinned her arms. Dawes told me about a ranger named Vickers. He opened the north curtain. They found him dead in the forest 11 days later. His heart stopped, and his logbook was full of one word, written over and over. Just one word. What word? Wrong. He wrote wrong 300 times. That's what happens when you open the curtain. The knocking came again. 3 slow knocks, then silence. Reeves stopped fighting. We lay on the floor of the observation room, listening to the silence until dawn came through the edges of the curtains. The next morning, I radioed dispatch. Station 14, second count discrepancy in 7 days. 44 last night, 46 previously. Something knocked on the north window during Amendment B protocol. Did either ranger look out the window? Negative. Protocol was followed. Did either ranger respond to the knocking? Negative. Understood, 14. You are now under Protocol 7. Check your emergency cache for sealed container. Read the instructions on the exterior of the container, but do not open it unless instructed by dispatch using emergency backup protocol. Confirm receipt. I confirmed receipt. Reeves and I went to the north deck and opened the emergency cache with the yellow key. Inside was the sealed container Matthews had mentioned, a metal box about the size of a shoebox, marked "Do Not Open" in red letters. Taped to the top was a sheet of paper with typed instructions. Protocol 7. Instructions. Place container in center of main floor radio room. Do not open. Leave in position until further notice. If instructed to open by radio transmission, verify using emergency backup phrase "Denali standing" before complying. If container is opened without verification, evacuate station immediately via South Trail. Do not wait for helicopter. I placed the container in the center of the radio room floor. It was heavier than it looked, and something shifted inside when I moved it. I didn't ask what. What's in it? Reeves asked. I don't know. Aren't you curious? No. She stared at the container for a long moment, then she went upstairs without another word. Protocol 7 changed things. The container sat in the radio room like an anchor, and I found myself avoiding it. I did my radio checks, standing as far from it as the room allowed. I wrote in my logbook at the kitchen table instead of the radio desk. Reeves asked me why. I don't know, I said. It feels wrong to be near it. That's not very practical. Sometimes practical and smart aren't the same thing. On the 6th day after we entered Protocol 7, the helicopter didn't come. It was scheduled for 10 in the morning. By noon, there was no radio contact, no engine sound, nothing. I radioed dispatch at 12:15. Station 14 to dispatch. Resupply helicopter has not arrived. Please advise. Static, then faintly. 14, dispatch. Weather delay, ETA, Unknown. Maintain position. The transmission cut out. I tried again at 12:30, then at 1, then at 1:30. No response. The radio's working, Reeves said, checking the equipment. We're transmitting fine. They're just not answering. Or they can't answer. What do you mean? I thought about Station 12, about Hendricks walking into the tree line and never coming back. I don't know, but we maintain position. That's what the rules say. We had enough supplies for another 8 days. I inventoried them 3 times to be sure. 31 cans of food, 8 gallons of water, 22 batteries, 4 flares. If the helicopter didn't come, we could stretch it to 10 days with rationing. And after 10 days? Reeves asked. After 10 days, we walk out. 11 miles through forest in October with no backup. That's the alternative. She didn't argue, neither did I. On the 8th day without contact, the count changed again. 39 steps. I was alone in the radio room. Reeves was upstairs, sleeping. I followed Amendment B, climbing to the observation room and sitting in the dark with the curtains drawn. At 1:17, the radio crackled. I was upstairs. The radio was downstairs, in the room with the sealed container, but I could hear the transmission clearly, as if someone had turned the volume to maximum. Station 14, this is dispatch. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. Open the sealed container and follow the instructions inside. Confirm receipt. The voice sounded like dispatch. The protocol reference was correct. But something was wrong. The voice had a slight echo, a delay between syllables that made the words sound assembled rather than spoken. 14. Confirm receipt. Open the sealed container immediately. I stayed on my bunk. Rule: if instructed to open the container by radio, verify using emergency backup phrase Denali standing before complying. 14. This is urgent. Lives depend on your immediate compliance. Open the container. I did not move. I did not respond. 14. We are tracking your position. We know you can hear this transmission. Open the container now. Reeves woke up. What's happening? Stay here. Don't go downstairs. But that's dispatch. No. I looked at her in the darkness. Dispatch would use the backup phrase. The rules are clear. She nodded slowly. We sat in the dark and listened as the transmission continued, growing more urgent, demanding we open the container, claiming emergencies and casualties and disasters that required our immediate action. At 3:42, the transmission stopped. The footsteps began. I counted them through the floor. 33. I closed my eyes and waited for dawn. On the 9th day, the helicopter finally came. I heard the engine at 10:47. I ran to the observation deck and watched the aircraft approach from the south. Standard route, standard altitude. The radio crackled. Station 14, this is Resupply Alpha. Code phrase Copper Basin 2. Repeat, Copper Basin 2. Requesting landing permission. Copper Basin. Today was Tuesday. The suffix should be 3. 14 copies. Confirm code phrase. Copper Basin 2. Requesting immediate landing. The suffix was wrong. Sunday was 1, Monday was 2. Tuesday was 3. Amendment H was explicit. Resupply Alpha. Your suffix is incorrect. Please confirm day of week and retry. Silence. The helicopter continued its approach, descending toward the clearing. 14. We are declaring fuel emergency. Must land immediately. Copper Basin 2. Resupply Alpha. Your suffix is incorrect. Do not land. Repeat. Do not land. The helicopter touched down in the clearing. The engine shut off. I watched through the observation window as the pilot's door opened and a man in a Park Service uniform stepped out. He looked exactly like Matthews. Same height, same build, same face. But he wasn't carrying supply crates. He was walking toward the station with his hands at his sides, moving in a way that was almost natural but not quite. His steps slightly too even, his arms swinging slightly out of sync. "Langley." His voice carried across the clearing. "Open the door. We need to evacuate you." I didn't move. "Langley, this is Matthews. Badge 7429. Open the door." I looked at his chest. He wasn't wearing a badge. "Where's your badge, Matthews?" The figure stopped. It stood in the middle of the clearing, maybe 50 yards from the station, perfectly still. "I lost it in the field. Doesn't matter. We need to leave now." Rule 14. Don't open the door unless they provide the code phrase and you have visually confirmed their badge number through the window beside the door. "I need to see your badge, Matthews." "I told you, I lost it." The voice was getting angry now, an emotion that seemed performed rather than felt. "This is an emergency. Lives are at stake." "I need to see your badge." The figure stood very still for a long moment. Then it smiled, a wide, wrong smile that stretched too far across its face. "You're making a mistake, Langley." It turned and walked back to the helicopter. I watched as it climbed inside, started the engine, and lifted off. The aircraft banked north, toward the tree line, not toward Fairbanks, and disappeared. I logged the incident and went back to the radio room. The sealed container sat in the center of the floor, unchanged. Reeves found me there an hour later. "What happened?" "I heard the helicopter. It wasn't real. I saw it land. I saw someone get out." It looked like Matthews. It used the wrong code suffix and didn't have a badge. When I wouldn't open the door, it smiled and left. Reeves sat down slowly. "What do you mean it smiled?" "I mean its face did something that looked like smiling, but wasn't. Like it was copying a smile from a photograph." She was quiet for a long time, then. "We need to leave." "We can't leave. The rules say to maintain position." The rules were written by people who could send helicopters and radio backup. We haven't heard from dispatch in 9 days. Whatever's out there is getting bolder. We need to leave. We have supplies for 2 more days. If we don't hear anything by then, we'll discuss it. Discuss it. "Langley, something came here wearing Matthew's face. Something's been circling this station every night for weeks. Something's been calling your name and knocking on windows and sending fake radio transmissions. And you want to discuss it?" "I want to survive. The rules have kept us alive so far." "Have they?" She pointed at the sealed container. "We don't even know what that is. We're sitting here with some mystery box in the middle of the room, following rules written by people we can't contact, in a place where things don't work the way they're supposed to. How is that survival?" "It's the only option we have." Reeves looked at me for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked upstairs. I stayed with the container. I didn't trust it, but I trusted it more than I trusted whatever was outside. On the 10th day, Reeves tried to leave. I found her at dawn, packing her bag by the main door. She had her jacket on and her boots laced. "You can't go," I said. "Watch me. It's 11 miles through forest. You don't know what's out there. I know what's in here. Nothing. No contact, no support, no plan. Just you and your rules and that box. The rules have kept us alive. I know. You keep saying that." She shouldered her pack. "But I'm not going to sit here and wait for something to take my face and knock on the door. I'm walking out. If I make it to Willow Creek, I'll send help. If I don't..." She paused. "If I don't, you'll know the rules didn't work." I should have stopped her. I should have blocked the door or tackled her or done something. But I was tired. We both were. 9 days without contact. 9 nights of counting footsteps and not looking out windows and following protocols written by people who might not exist anymore. I let her go. She opened the door and walked into the clearing. I watched from the window as she crossed toward the south trail, the route to Willow Creek, the route Dawes had taken when he left. She was 50 yards out when she stopped. Something was standing at the edge of the tree line. I couldn't see it clearly from the window. Just a shape, roughly human, standing in the shadows between 2 spruce trees. Reeves was facing it, frozen in the middle of the clearing. "Come back," I said, even though she couldn't hear me. "Come back inside." She didn't move, neither did the shape. Then Reeves turned and walked toward the tree line. "No." I ran for the door. "Reeves, stop. Come back." She didn't respond. She was walking steadily, mechanically, like someone in a dream. The shape in the tree line hadn't moved, but Reeves was getting closer. 40 yards, 30, 20. I stepped onto the deck. "Reeves!" She stopped at 10 yards from the tree line. The shape was still there, still motionless. I could see it more clearly now, roughly human, roughly the right proportions, but wrong in ways I couldn't specify. Its outline seemed to shift, to blur at the edges, as if it wasn't entirely present. "Reeves, please, come back." She turned to look at me. Her face was blank, expressionless. Then she turned back to the shape and kept walking. She crossed into the tree line. The shape turned and followed her. They both disappeared into the forest. I stood on the deck for a long time, watching the empty tree line. Then I went back inside, closed the door, and sat down in the radio room. The sealed container was still there. The rules were still taped to the wall. But Reeves was gone, and I was alone again. I radioed dispatch every hour for the next 3 days. Static. I tried Channel 4, the emergency channel, even though Rule 7 said I needed direct physical evidence. I tried Channel 6 during approved hours. I tried every frequency the radio could reach. No response. On the second day alone, I found Reeves' logbook on her bunk. She'd been writing in it every night since she arrived. I read through her entries, looking for anything useful. Day 1, Station 14. Langley seems competent, but obsessive about protocols. Radio check at 9, curtain closed by 11, footsteps counted. He says it's the only way to survive. Day 2, first night. Heard footsteps outside. Count was 47. Heard a voice calling Langley's name. He didn't react. I almost went to the window. He stopped me. Maybe he's right. Day 3. Something knocked on the north window during the night. 3 knocks. I wanted to see what was out there. Langley tackled me. He told me about Vickers, the ranger who opened the curtain and died. I don't know if I believe him, but I'm scared enough to follow the rules. Day 5. Helicopter didn't come. Langley says we maintain position. I think we should leave, but he won't listen. He trusts the rules more than his own judgment. Day 7. Radio transmission during the night. Voice said to open the sealed container. Langley didn't respond. He says the voice didn't use the backup phrase, so it wasn't real. I'm starting to think nothing here is real. Day 8. Something's changing. The footstep count keeps getting lower. 47, then 46, then 44, then 39. Langley says to follow Amendment B, but I don't know what we're waiting for. Whatever's out there is getting closer. Day 9. Fake helicopter. Fake Matthews. It smiled wrong. Langley saw it. He still won't leave. Day 10. I can't stay here anymore. I'm leaving at dawn. If I make it, I'll send help. If I don't, maybe Langley will finally understand that the rules aren't enough. The last entry was from the morning she walked into the tree line. I closed the logbook and put it on the radio desk. She was right about some things. The footstep count was getting lower. Whatever was out there was getting closer. And the rules, the careful, precise protocols that had kept me alive for 6 weeks, might not be enough anymore. But they were all I had. On the third day alone, the footstep count was 17. I sat in the radio room and counted as the steps circled the station. 17. Not 47, not 39, not even close. Just 17 steps, ending directly outside the east wall. Then silence. Amendment B said to proceed to the observation room and remain until dawn. But the observation room was upstairs, and the stairs were on the east side of the building. If I went upstairs, I would be moving toward whatever was waiting outside. I stayed in the radio room. I sat in the corner as far from the east wall as I could get, and waited. At 1:33, something spoke from just outside the wall. "Marcus." I didn't move. "Marcus," I came back. The voice was wrong. It wasn't the male voice that had called my name before. This was a woman's voice, slightly distorted. "Marcus, please open the door. I came back from the tree line." Reeves. It sounded like Reeves, the same pitch, the same cadence. But something was off. The words came too evenly, with no natural pauses or inflections. "Marcus, I found help. There's a cabin 3 miles southeast. We can walk there together." I said nothing. I didn't move. "Marcus, are you in there? I can see the light." The light. I looked at the propane lantern on the radio desk. It was turned low, just like before. I reached over and turned it off. The room went dark. "Marcus, why did you turn off the light?" Silence. "Marcus, I'm cold. Please let me in." I sat in the dark and waited. The voice continued for another 23 minutes, alternating between pleading and demanding. Then it stopped. I heard footsteps moving away from the station, not circling, just walking. They faded into silence. I stayed in the radio room until dawn. When the light came, I went to the east window and looked out. There was a shape in the mud, about 10 feet from the wall. It was roughly humanoid, like a snow angel, but pressed into the mud rather than snow. Inside the shape, scattered like debris, were small objects I couldn't identify. I didn't go outside to examine them. The 11th day brought the storm. I saw it coming from the observation deck, a wall of black cloud sweeping down from the north, moving faster than any weather system I'd seen in Alaska. Within an hour, the sky was dark and the wind was screaming across the clearing. Snow began falling at noon, heavy and wet, reducing visibility to 20 yards. The radio crackled. "Station 14, this is dispatch. Emergency weather protocol is now in effect. Acknowledge." I grabbed the receiver. 14 copies. Is this real dispatch? 14, acknowledge with backup phrase. Denali standing. Confirmed. This is real dispatch. We have been unable to contact you for the past 9 days due to atmospheric interference. What is your status? Relief washed through me. Dispatch. Ranger Reeves is missing. She walked into the tree line 6 days ago, following contact with an unknown entity. I've been following all protocols. Footstep count has decreased from 47 to 17. Sealed container is in position, unopened. 14, confirm. Ranger Reeves walked into tree line voluntarily. She appeared to be in some kind of trance. There was a shape at the tree line, roughly human, unclear outline. She walked toward it and didn't respond to verbal commands. Pause. Understood, 14. Ranger Reeves is now classified as lost. Do not attempt recovery. Storm duration is estimated at 72 hours. You are now under Emergency Protocol Alpha. Confirm receipt. 14 confirms receipt. Please advise on Emergency Protocol Alpha. Transmitting now. The radio went to static for a moment, then a different voice, younger, more formal, began reading a list. Emergency Protocol Alpha, Item 1. Seal all doors and windows using the tape and plastic sheeting in the emergency cache. Maintain seals until storm passes or dispatch gives all clear. Item 2. Do not approach any window for any reason during storm duration. Visual contact through windows is now prohibited. Cover all windows with interior materials if available. Item 3. If you hear any voice from outside during storm duration, do not respond. Do not acknowledge. This includes voices claiming to be dispatch, other rangers, or emergency personnel. All legitimate communications will be preceded by backup phrase confirmation. Item 4. The sealed container may be opened only if you hear 3 specific sounds in sequence: a knock on the north door, a knock on the south door, and a knock on the main door. If you hear these 3 sounds in any other sequence, do not open the container. Item 5. If the storm lasts longer than 72 hours without all clear from dispatch, proceed to secondary evacuation point at grid reference 543 by 298. Do not return to Station 14. Confirm receipt of Emergency Protocol Alpha. I confirmed receipt. The radio went silent. I spent the next 2 hours sealing the station. I taped plastic sheeting over every window, using entire rolls from the emergency cache. I checked every door seal, every gap, every crack that might let light in or let something see inside. When I was done, the station was dark except for the propane lantern. The storm hit in full at 3 in the afternoon. I could hear the wind screaming outside, feel the building shake with each gust. Snow piled against the walls, muffling the sound but adding weight. The temperature inside dropped even with the propane heater running. At 8:17 that evening, the footsteps began. Not circling, not the usual pattern. These footsteps were running, sprinting around the station in a frantic, irregular rhythm. I couldn't count them. They moved too fast, overlapping, sometimes seeming to come from multiple directions at once. Then they stopped. Knock. North door. I heard it clearly through the wall. A single, deliberate knock. Knock. South door. Same rhythm. Same intensity. I waited. My hand hovered over the sealed container. Protocol Alpha was clear. 3 knocks in sequence. North door, south door, main door, and I could open it. Silence. No third knock. The sequence was incomplete. I didn't open the container. I sat in the dark and listened to the storm. At 11:42, the voice came. Marcus. It was coming from inside the station, from the stairwell. Marcus, I'm up here. Reeves' voice, coming from the observation room. Marcus, please come up. I need to show you something. I didn't move. Rule 8 said not to respond verbally, but Rule 8 was about voices from outside, not voices from inside. Marcus, it's important. You need to see what's outside. The windows were covered. I couldn't see outside even if I wanted to. An Emergency Protocol Alpha said no visual contact through windows. Marcus, they lied to you. The rules aren't real. They just want to keep you here. I heard footsteps on the stairs, coming down. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Marcus, I found out what's in the container. Do you want to know? I looked at the sealed container on the floor. It sat there in the lantern light, unchanged. Marcus, they put something bad in there. Something that's been waiting for you. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. I heard breathing, slow, wet breathing, like something that wasn't used to air. Marcus, if you open the door, I can help you. We can leave together. The door is sealed, I said. I don't know why I spoke. I'd followed the rules for 6 weeks, and the first rule of voices was, don't respond. But something made me speak. The breathing stopped. You talked to me. Silence. You broke the rule, Marcus. I heard the footsteps retreat up the stairs. The voice didn't speak again. The storm lasted 81 hours. I counted every minute. I stayed in the radio room with the container, running through the emergency supplies, trying to stay awake. I failed sometimes, nodding off for 10 minutes, 20, once for almost an hour. Each time I woke to the sound of voices or footsteps or knocking that didn't complete the sequence. At hour 53, something knocked on all 3 doors at once. I didn't open the container. At hour 67, the voice from the stairwell came back. It didn't use Reeves' voice this time. It used mine. You should open the container, it said in my voice. The rules say you can. I didn't respond. I didn't move. You broke the rule once already. You spoke to me. What's one more? I sat in the dark and waited. At hour 79, the radio crackled. Station 14, this is dispatch. Denali standing. Confirm status. 14 copies. Denali standing. I'm still here. Storm is passing. All clear in approximately 2 hours. Maintain current position. Copy that. Dispatch. There's something inside the station. It's been in the stairwell for most of the storm. It speaks with different voices. Long pause. 14. Confirm. You have not opened the sealed container. Confirmed. Sequence was never completed correctly. Did you respond verbally to any voice during the storm? I hesitated. Once, at the 11-hour mark, I spoke one sentence to a voice that sounded like Ranger Reeves. Silence on the other end. I could hear the wind dying outside, the storm passing. 14. Understand that verbal response may have created a bridge. Do not speak again until rescue arrives. Do not respond to any voice, including dispatch, unless we use the backup phrase first. If something speaks to you without the phrase, do not respond under any circumstances. Confirm. Confirmed. Rescue helicopter is en route. ETA 6 hours post-storm. Maintain position. Dispatch out. The radio went silent. I sat in the dark and listened. From the stairwell, very quietly, I heard my own voice say, Denali standing. I didn't respond. The rescue helicopter arrived at 4:22 in the afternoon, 8 hours after the storm cleared. I heard the engine from inside the sealed station. I didn't move. The radio crackled. Station 14, this is Rescue Alpha. Denali standing. Confirm position for extraction. I grabbed the receiver. 14 copies. Denali standing. I'm in the main floor radio room. All windows sealed. Main door is accessible. Copy, 14. We're landing now. Remain in position until we're at your door. We'll knock 3 times rapid. Pause. Then 2 times. Confirm recognition signal. 3 rapid. Pause. 2. Confirmed. I waited. Through the sealed windows, I could hear the helicopter land. The engine shuts down, footsteps crossing the clearing. Then knock, knock, knock. Pause, knock, knock. The correct sequence. I stood up and walked to the door. Badge number. I called through the door. 6148, Reynolds, Incident Response Team. I checked the registry beside the radio. Reynolds, David, badge 6148. The photo showed a man in his 40s with a gray beard. Confirm weekly phrase with suffix. Copper Basin 5. Today is Friday. Correct. I unsealed the door and opened it. Reynolds stood on the deck with 2 other rangers. All 3 had badges displayed. All 3 had the correct uniforms, the correct equipment, the correct expressions, professional concern mixed with obvious relief. You're Langley? Yes. We need to evacuate you now. Is anyone else in the station? I thought about the voice from the stairwell, my voice, speaking the backup phrase. No. Ranger Reeves is lost. I've been alone since day 10. Reynolds nodded. We know about Reeves. We're going to get you out of here. Then we'll send a team to search for her. He looked past me into the dark station. Is that the container? Yes, I didn't open it. Good, we'll handle it from here. The other 2 rangers entered the station. One went to the container. The other began inspecting the seals on the windows. Reynolds stayed with me on the deck. How bad was it? He asked. I didn't know how to answer. How do you describe 6 weeks of counting footsteps and not looking out windows and waiting for something that never quite arrived? How do you explain a voice that sounds like yourself, speaking from inside your own shelter? I followed the rules, I said. That's all. Reynolds looked at me for a long moment. That's usually enough. Usually. Sometimes it's not. He glanced at the tree line. Sometimes the rules change and we don't update fast enough. Sometimes the things out there learn the rules too. What are they? The things? He shook his head. I've worked this district for 15 years. I don't know what they are. I know what they do. They watch, they wait, they test, they learn. If you follow the rules, they can't touch you. But they're patient. They remember. Remember what? Everything. Every time someone breaks a rule. Every time someone speaks when they shouldn't, or looks when they shouldn't, or opens something they shouldn't. He met my eyes. You spoke during the storm, the dispatcher told me. I know, I made a mistake. Maybe, or maybe it was inevitable. The rules keep you safe, but nobody follows them perfectly forever. That's what they're counting on. The other 2 rangers emerged from the station carrying the sealed container between them. One of them caught Reynolds' eye and shook his head slightly. Reynolds nodded. Time to go. You'll debrief at headquarters. Then we'll figure out your next assignment. I don't want another assignment. I understand, but you're one of the few people who knows how this works. We need you. I looked at Station 14, the wooden walls, the observation deck, the radio tower. I'd spent 43 days there. I'd counted footsteps and closed curtains and not opened containers. I'd watched Reeves walk into the tree line and heard my own voice speaking from inside the building. Can I take something first? Reynolds hesitated. What? The rules, the laminated sheets. I want to make a copy for the next person. He looked at me like I'd said something strange. There won't be a next person. Station 14 is being decommissioned. Why? Because you broke the rule. You spoke to it. He turned toward the helicopter. That station is compromised now. Whatever learned your voice has access to 14 forever. No one will ever be stationed there again. I followed him across the clearing. The other rangers were loading equipment into the helicopter. One of them was carrying the sealed container, handling it carefully. What's in the container? I asked. Reynolds didn't answer immediately. He helped me into the helicopter, secured my harness, put a headset on my ears. Then, as the rotors began to spin, he spoke through the intercom. Salt, just salt. 300 pounds of rock salt sealed in lead. I don't understand. The salt isn't for you. It's for them. If they ever got inside, really inside, not just a voice through a door, you were supposed to spread it around the Stogan and wait. Wait for what? For the salt to stop them long enough for rescue. He looked out the window as the helicopter lifted off. It doesn't kill them. Nothing kills them. But it slows them down, gives us time to get people out. And if the rescue didn't come? Reynolds didn't answer. He turned away and stared at the forest falling away beneath us. I looked down at Station 14, the clearing, the tree line, the wooden building that had been my home for 43 days. From the air, it looked small and vulnerable, a tiny human thing surrounded by miles of wilderness. Something was standing at the edge of the clearing, a shape roughly human watching the helicopter rise. I looked away before I could count to 5. Headquarters was a concrete building on the outskirts of Fairbanks. They debriefed me for 9 hours, asking questions I couldn't answer and recording answers they didn't explain. When it was over, they gave me a room with a bed and a lock on the door and told me to sleep. I didn't sleep. I sat at the small desk and wrote. If you're reading this, you've been assigned to a remote station in the Alaska interior. You'll receive a set of rules, protocols, procedures. Follow them exactly. Don't improvise. Don't ask questions. Don't assume you understand what you're dealing with, because you don't. No one does. The rules aren't explanations. They're survival. They're the accumulated knowledge of everyone who came before you. Everyone who made mistakes so you don't have to. Some of those people are dead. Some of them are worse than dead. And some of them are still out there, somewhere in the trees, speaking with voices that don't belong to them anymore. You'll be tempted. You'll hear things that sound like friends, like family, like yourself. You'll see things that look almost right, the right uniform, the right face, the right words. But there's always something wrong, a suffix out of place, a badge missing, a smile that stretches too far. If you notice the wrongness, if you hold on to the rules, you'll survive. Probably. I spent 6 weeks at Station 14. I followed every rule except one. I spoke to something that wore my friend's voice, and now that station is abandoned forever. That's what one mistake costs. But I survived. I'm here, writing this, because the rules worked, not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Enough is all you can hope for. I finished writing and sealed the paper in an envelope. I addressed it to Incident Response, District 7, and left it on the desk. Then I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. At 3:17 in the morning, I heard footsteps in the hallway outside my room. I counted them automatically, an instinct now, burned into my brain. 47 steps, exactly 47. The footsteps stopped outside my door. I heard breathing, slow, even, familiar. Marcus, my own voice coming from the hallway. Marcus, I found you. I didn't respond. I lay on the bed and counted my heartbeats instead. 112. The same as the perimeter count at Station 14. The same as the circuit around the building. You can't run from this, Marcus. The rules don't work forever. I heard the footsteps resume, moving down the hallway, fading into silence. At 4:30, the breathing stopped. At 5:15, the gray light of dawn crept under the door. I got up and went to breakfast. I ate with the other rangers, talked about the weather, filled out more paperwork, normal things, human things. But that night, and every night since, I count the footsteps outside my door. 47, always 47. And I don't speak when my own voice calls my name. The rules aren't enough. Reynolds was right about that. But they're all we have. Some mornings, when the light comes, I write down what I remember. The protocols, the procedures, the small, precise actions that kept me alive. I write them in clear, simple language, the way Dawes would have wanted. Someone will be assigned to the next station. Someone will read these rules and think they're hazing, a joke, an elaborate trick. Someone will open the wrong door, look out the wrong window, speak to the wrong voice. And maybe, if I write clearly enough, if I explain precisely enough, if I get the counts and times and procedures exactly right, maybe they'll survive anyway. Maybe the rules will be enough for them. I'm running out of things to write, so I'll end with the truth. I don't know what's out there. I worked for the Park Service in one of the most remote stations in Alaska, and I followed rules that made no sense, and something that wasn't human walked around my building every night for 6 weeks. I called it something because that's the only word that fits. It wasn't a bear or a moose or a person or a ghost. It was something else, something that watches, something that waits, something that learns. It learned my name, my voice, my face. It learned the backup phrase. It learned the rules, but it couldn't come inside. Not while I followed the protocols. Not while I counted the steps and kept the curtains closed and didn't speak when it called. That's what the rules are for. Not to explain, not to understand, just to keep the something outside where it belongs. I'm stationed at headquarters now, desk work mostly. Occasional trips to other stations for inspections and training. I teach new rangers about protocols, about code phrases and badge verification, and the importance of exact counts. I tell them about Reeves, about Vickers, about all the people who broke the rules and paid for it. But I don't tell them everything. I don't tell them about the voice in the stairwell, or the smile that stretched too far, or the footsteps that still follow me wherever I go. Some things you have to learn yourself. Some rules you have to discover on your own. Tomorrow, a new seasonal ranger arrives for assignment in the interior. Her name is Chen. She's young, practical, competent. She reminds me of myself, back when I thought rules were for people who didn't know any better. I've prepared a briefing packet for her. Inside is everything I know about the stations in this district, the protocols, the amendments, the emergency procedures. On the last page, in handwriting, I've added a note. Follow the rules exactly. Don't ask why. Don't improvise. Don't assume you understand. If you hear your name, don't answer. If you see something wrong, don't look longer than 5 seconds. If you hear footsteps, count them. The count matters. And if something speaks to you with your own voice, whatever you do, don't speak back. That's what I wrote for Chen. That's what I write for anyone who ends up in places like Station 14. The rules aren't enough to save you, but they might be enough to keep you alive long enough for rescue. Might. That's the word that haunts me now. Not will. Not definitely. Just might. I'm finishing this at 3 a.m. Outside my window, something is walking in the parking lot. I can hear the footsteps clearly. 47 steps circling the building. The count is correct, for now. Tomorrow, I'll teach Chen everything I know about survival in places where the rules are all that stand between you and something that wants to wear your face. I'll tell her to be precise, to be consistent, to trust the protocols even when they don't make sense. And maybe, if she's careful enough, if she follows the rules exactly, she'll make it through. But I won't promise her anything. Promises are for places where the rules are explanations, where understanding keeps you safe. Out there, in the stations, in the tree line, promises don't mean anything. Only the count matters. only the rules remain.